Hello everyone and welcome to this academic year of 2020-2021. Myself, Mrs. Sanlita De Silva, will be teaching you science. Today we shall begin with our very first chapter, the living world adaptations and classification. We see diversity in the plants, animals and birds around us. We also see different types of marine animals and plants. If we look closely, we would find there is a lot of difference in the physical structure, the eating habits, the behavior, as well as the habitat of these animals. Some animals and birds are huge in size, whereas some are very small, or we can say they are very tiny. Different regions have different flora and fauna. Some animals and birds are herbivores, whereas some are carnivores. I'm sure you must be knowing what is the difference between a herbivore and a carnivore. Now, some animals they lay eggs, whereas some give birth to their young ones. Some have a scaly exterior. For example, we can say a chameleon, or we have various other animals like, for example, an armadillo, which have a scaly exterior, and some are having a hairy exterior or fur, we can say, like, for example, dogs, cats, polar bears, etc. All these features shows an amazing diversity in these living creatures and how well they have adapted to their surroundings. In today's lecture, we are going to study about the plants which have undergone adaptations according to the different regions that they are found in. I'm going to show a small presentation which will give you an exact idea regarding some of these plants which we are going to study. Now, adaptation is defined as a process where a species or an organism gradually becomes better acclimated to its environment. The meaning of adaptation implies how a species changes its body and behavior to better suit its natural environment. There are an estimated 8.7 million species currently living on Earth, and they are found across a wide and diverse natural environment, ranging from frozen and desolate Arctics to the sweltering sands of the Sahara. The natural environment is an ever changing feature of planet Earth, and the process of adaptation ensures that the species which adapts the most survives. Now, there are different types of adaptations. There are some of the adaptations which I have mentioned below. Types of adaptations in animals and plants are categorized according to their function and the response observed. Now, these include, first is the structural adaptation. These are special attributes such as that involves some part of an organism's body, such as skin, color, and shape. These adaptations help the organisms to survive in their natural habitat. Now, examples include the blubber of a whale, the beak of a woodpecker, the baleen of a humpback whale. Now, even we can see structural adaptation in human beings. Now, where can we see the structural adaptation in the human beings? Now, I hope everyone knows that we have evolved from the apes. Our ancestors were apes. We have learned in the history chapters in the lower standards that how we have evolved from the Neanderthal man, the Homo erectus, the Homo sapiens, and all that stuff. Now, earlier as the apes had a tail. Now, when sorry, the apes did not feel the use or the need to use their tail, gradually this tail shrunk and it became a fusion of five bones, which we now know as the tailbone, or also known as coccyx. It is located at the lower part of our vertebral column. So, this coccyx is a fusion of five bones. Now, this tail, which we did not find a use for, gradually decreased and became useless, and now we just have a remainder of what we know it as tailbone. Now, next characteristic or next adaptation is the physiological adaptation. These are the mechanisms present in an organism that allow it to perform certain biochemical reactions to survive in its natural habitat. For example, a snake's ability to produce venom means the poison. A mammal's ability to maintain constant body temperature. Even as the ability of our body to produce hydrochloric acid to digest food is considered as a physiological adaptation. Now, there are certain examples of physiological adaptations which are given here, and one of which I would like to tell you is the adaptation in a frog. A frog cannot maintain its body temperature, and so it has to hibernate. Hibernate means it has to bury itself under the soil, or it has to bury itself under a rock or something in order to maintain the body temperature. Now, the next type of adaptation is the behavioral adaptation. These are ways a particular organism behaves to survive in its natural habitats. Now, migration of animals and birds are considered to be an aspect of behavioral adaptation. We see different migratory birds which come from different places. For example, you must be familiar with the bird called flamingo. The flamingos fly south. They come towards the swampy areas, or the areas which are having water bodies, in order to reproduce, and they stay there for many months, and later on they fly off to their homeland. Now, we see the adaptations. First, we will see the adaptations in desert plants. Now, everybody is familiar with the cactus. The cactus is a plant which has thorns, doesn't it? Now, the cactus, why does it have thorns? Why do you feel it has thorns on it? Now, the answer to this question is these thorns are actually a modification of the leaves that the cactus has undergone itself. The cactus has undergone this adaptation in order to save water. Now, as we know that in the desert region, the temperatures are very high. The temperatures are so high that it can evaporate the water from the leaves, and so in order to retain the water in the bodies or in the leaves of the cactus, these leaves have modified themselves into thorns. Now, the exterior of a cactus is waxy. It is smooth, it has a waxy coating. Now, the waxy coating ensures that there is less amount of water evaporated from the exterior or from the outer surface of the cactus. Now, if you see on the screen, I have shared some of the images. One is of the cactus. You can see different types of explanations given here. Now, here some plants, they have horizontal root system. just below the surface. Horizontal means sleeping. Okay, so the horizontal arrangement ensures that they search for water far and wide. Some plants have a vertical or long roots, tap roots, which reach groundwater. Now, small leaves or spines, glossy and waxy leaves, all reduce water loss. So, the water loss, which also we also called as transpiration, this water loss is reduced or it is lessened by the waxy coating. Now, some plants store water in their roots, stems, leaves, or fruits. These are called succulents. Now, I have given a picture of what the succulents look like on the bottom right corner. So, these succulents are small plants which we can also use as uh, show plants. We also keep these plants in our homes because they are attractive and they are easy to grow. Now these succulents, you see, their leaves are very fleshy. Their leaves are having a waxy coating, which obviously allows the lesser water to evaporate. So the leaves are fat, they are short, they are thick, and inside, if we cut a leaf into half, we will see that the inside is a very fleshy area. One such example you will find in your garden, that is the aloe vera. Aloe vera is also a type of a desert plant. It requires less water, and if you see the aloe vera, it also has a waxy coating. It has thorns on the sides. The waxy coating ensures that the aloe vera doesn't lose much water due to evaporation. Now, if you cut an aloe vera leaf, you will find that inside there is a soft, mushy gel kind of a thing. This is the fleshy part which retains water. Now, moving on to the next adaptation in the aquatic plants. Aquatic plants, the most common example of aquatic plant you will see is the water lily or the lotus. Now, some of the aquatic plants are firmly rooted in the soil or at the bottom of the water bodies, but some of them have their stems submerged and the leaves and flowers float on the surface. However, some of them are entirely floating on the water. Their roots are not anchored in the soil. Their roots are floating along with them. Now, the surface of leaves and stems of many aquatic plants are covered with a waxy layer so as to not get spoiled by the water. So, this waxy layer ensures that the water slides off easily from these leaves and the petals. Now, as I have shown you in this picture, the aquatic plants require special adaptations for living submerged in water or at the water's surface. Underwater leaves and stems help plants to move with the current. Roots and root hair are absent as there is no need to absorb water. Now, underwater plants have leaves with large air pockets to absorb oxygen from water. Some plants produce floating seeds as well. Now, these seeds are floating in the water so as to allow the fertilization to take place. So, the plants ensure that their reproduction, their species stays alive. Right. So, next examples of water adaptations: the lotus, as you can see in the picture. Then there is duckweed, also water lily, which looks just like lotus. Now, aquatic plants, what are those? They are floating plants. These are spongy, soft, and float on the surface of water. Now some examples, as I said, lotus and duckweed. Now leaves of some aquatic plants are thin and slender like a ribbon. This shape helps them to withstand fast currents of water. Now if there's a strong force of water, it allows the leaves and the roots and as well as the plants to go along with the current and not break in the process. It allows them to go in the direction of the current, and so that is why they can withstand the water current. There are pockets of air in their stems as well as roots. So, air spaces in stems and petioles of aquatic plants are useful for floating in water. So, these air pockets, they help the plant in staying afloat. Okay, means to float on the water. Now, the next slide, in which we can see the adaptations in plants in forest regions. The leaves of forest trees have adapted to cope with exceptionally high rainfall. Now, mostly in the tropical forests, there is extremely high rainfall, and so these tropical rainforests have adapted themselves in order to withstand this high rainfall. The tropical rainforest leaves have a drip tip, means their leaves are shaped in such a way that the water from the rainwater flows off easily or slides off easily, so that the fungus doesn't grow on the plants. These plants need to shed water to avoid growth of fungus and bacteria in the warm, wet tropical rainforest. One such example of tropical rainforest is the Amazon forest, which we are all familiar. This Amazon rainforest is located in Brazil. Now, this rainforest has an amazing variety and amazing diversity of plants and animals, reptiles, insects, creatures, various types of plants, various creepers. So this rainforest, which receives an enormous amount of rain, these forests have to withstand this kind of rain and survive. And so these trees have a thick bark which is smooth and slippery, so that the vines which keep on feeding of the host of a tree, to keep off those vines away. Now, temperate forest adaptations, they have a thick bark which protects trees, and they shed their leaves in winter, which conserves water and nutrients during cold winters. The next slide which we see is the adaptations in plants for ingestion of food. Now, what is meant by ingestion? Ingestion means the consumption of food, the way we consume our food. Now, we as human beings, we have our mouths to ingest our food. But that is not the case of each and every animal, or there are some animals, there are some organisms which do not have mouths to ingest their food. Now, here in plants, as we are discussing about plants today, here in plants, we can see that plants, they usually survive or they usually grow with the nitrogen which is present in the soil. Now, nitrogen is one of the it is one of the element which is required by the plants in order to grow. Now, nitrogen is fixed as we have two kinds of nitrogen fixation in the atmosphere. One is the atmospheric nitrogen fixation and another is the biological fixation, which fixes, we will come across these two types of fixations in the other chapters, in the upcoming chapters. But quickly coming to the nitrogen, which is an important element in order to for the plants to grow. Now this nitrogen, which is required for the growth of plants, it is acquired from the soil, or in certain cases it is acquired from the atmosphere. Now some plants do not take in the nitrogen from the soil or from the atmosphere, but instead they take in the nitrogen which they get from the insects or some of the reptiles that they eat. Now these plants are carnivorous plants. Two such examples which I have given on the screen are, first is the picture plant. It looks like a picture, and you can see there is a small frog peeping out of the picture plant. Now that frog is trapped inside. Now how it is trapped inside? Now these plants, for example, we take the example of a picture plant. This plant has a colorful liquid inside which is sweet smelling, and so the insects or certain small reptiles are attracted to this sweet fragrant liquid which is inside the picture plant, and they go inside in order to eat or consume it. As soon as they go inside, it is a sticky liquid which traps them inside. Once they are trapped, the picture plant, we cannot see a flap here on top of it. There is a flap on top which closes, and that flap will close and the entire digestion process or the consuming process of the picture plant will start. Now this plant will produce certain enzymes which will disintegrate the insect which is trapped inside, and so the insect dies and most of the nutrition is taken in from the insect for the plants. Now on the right hand side you will see the plant which is also called as Venus flytrap. Now this Venus flytrap, it also has it's actually like a trap. So as the name suggests, as we see the hand-like or the palm-like structures on top of each of the leaves with the spines. Now as that is a colorful area which also has a sweet smelling liquid. This liquid, as the insect comes to consume this liquid, the insect is stuck because of the stickiness of that liquid. As soon as the insect is stuck on that liquid, both the flaps will close. When the flaps will close, it will start secreting certain juices which will disintegrate that insect, and again the insect will die inside that plant, and the nutrition from the insect will be absorbed by the plant in order to grow. These are the carnivorous plants that derive some or most of their nutrients from trapping and consuming animals or protozoans. Now typically insects and other arthropods. Now the next slide you can see is of the grasslands. Now what are grasslands? Grasslands are diverse types of bushes and grasses that are found. They have fibrous roots and their roots prevent soil erosion. Now, in these grasslands, we find different types of animals like tiger, elephants, deer, etc. These animals can remain hidden in these grasses. Now, the grasslands in different regions have different lengths of grasses. So, the grasslands in the colder regions have the grass which is very short, and the grasslands which are in the tropical regions, they have the grasses which are very tall, sometimes so tall that they can even hide an elephant. Now, in short grasslands, or the grasslands where there short grasses grow, animals like rabbits are found. Vast meadows are found in hilly regions as well as plains. Now, the next slide, we will see the coniferous forest. The coniferous forests often cover mountain sides. They grow on the sides of the mountain. Now, these trees are very tall and narrow, so snow will slide off the branches without breaking them. Now, since these forests or these kind of trees are found in the snowy regions, they have to bear the weight of the snow. Since there is a heavy snowfall or there's a lot of snow in that region, the trees are laden with the snow. Now, what allows the tree to grow in that region as well as survive in such a region? Now, the trees, they always grow close together for protection from the wind, and they also have a thick bark which resists damage from low heat summer fires. Now, in this slide, you can see the types of leaves that are found on these trees. The leaves are pointed in the shape of a needle. Now, the unique shape of this leaf allows the snow to slide off the branches very easily. So, it doesn't allow the snow to stay for a very long time, and so as soon as the snow becomes heavy, it slides off the branches, and so that is the reason why we have the pointed leaves on the coniferous trees. These leaves ensure that the snow doesn't stay on the trees for a very long time, and in the process doesn't break them. So, my dear children, today we have learned about the various types of adaptations which we find in the plants. Now, plants have adapted themselves to various types of regions, various types of climates, and they have adapted themselves to the various types of soil which is found in that region. Some grow on the sides of the mountains, some grow in the swampy areas, like for example, the what you can say, the mangroves which grow in the marshy areas, which also protect us from the big tidal waves or the big waves of the tsunami. Now, these mangroves also have their roots firmly inside the ground. They are short, they are having this root system where it's like a cage where various insects, various reptiles breed, various types of birds come in these areas in order to breed and reproduce. So, mangroves grow in the marshy areas. There are certain trees which, for example, the cactus, the dates, these trees are found in the desert regions where we have seen that their leaves are at they are modified into thorns, or they are thick, having a waxy coating, and in order to avoid the evaporation of water. And so today's lecture we have seen the adaptations in plants, and next lecture we will see what are the adaptations in animals and how they have adjusted themselves to the various types of regions that they live in. That's all for today. Thank you. Okay.